Hey, welcome to The Explainer. So get this, we're diving into a discovery from a super remote cave in Siberia that might just rewrite everything we thought we knew about the human story. It's an incredible mystery that starts with the tiniest of clues and ends up pointing to a whole lost world, a forgotten branch of humanity.
Just think about this for a second. What if our entire understanding of human origins, who we are and where we came from, was missing a massive piece of the puzzle? What if one single tiny fragment of bone held the secret to an entirely new kind of human?
Because that's literally where this whole mind-blowing story kicks off. Not with some grand ancient city or a spectacular tomb, but with this, one little piece of a pinky finger found on the floor of a cave. Okay, so picture this. It's 2008. A team of archaeologists is digging in the Denisova cave, way out in the mountains of Siberia. They find what looks like just another fossil, probably from a Neanderthal or some other known human relative. But they couldn't have been more wrong. So the team finds the bone in 2008. They figure it's from a Neanderthal, maybe 40,000 years old. I mean, a cool find, nothing that's going to rewrite the textbooks, right? But then, in 2010, they managed to sequence the ancient DNA still preserved inside. And the results absolutely stunned the entire scientific community. The DNA didn't match Neanderthals. And it didn't match us, Homo sapiens. It belonged to a completely new, undiscovered group of archaic humans. They named them the Denisovans, right after the cave where they were found. And this discovery didn't just add a new branch to our family tree, it basically forced us to redraw the whole thing. And okay, this is where the real puzzle begins. The DNA proved a third kind of human was walking the earth alongside our direct ancestors. But if they were a major population, where are all their fossils? Where are their cities, their tools? I mean, where are all the bones? Yeah, this slide right here nails the central paradox perfectly. On the left, you've got their entire physical record. One finger bone, a couple of teeth, a jawbone, and maybe a piece of a skull. That's it. That's all we have. But on the right, their genetic legacy is enormous. It's a massive, sprawling footprint found in the DNA of millions of people alive today. So how is that possible? Well, the answer's pretty intimate. Our ancestors met them, and they interbred. A lot. Today, some people in Papua New Guinea carry up to 5% Denisovan DNA. I mean, that's a huge chunk of your genetic code. It's also found in indigenous Australians, in Tibetans. This tells us they weren't some small, isolated group. They were a major presence all across Asia. Okay, so we know they were out there, all over the place. But who were these people? What were they actually like? Using those few fossils and the genetic code they left behind in us, scientists have started to piece together a profile. And honestly, the picture that's emerging is just wild. All right, first up, let's talk brains. A skull found in China, which many think is Denisovan, suggests they had a brain capacity roughly 20% larger than our own. Think about that, 20% more than you or I have. Now look, bigger doesn't automatically mean smarter, but it definitely hints that their minds might have worked in a very different way. And the genetic clues are just as mind-blowing. Modern Tibetans are famous for being able to live and work at extreme altitudes, like 14,000 feet without getting sick. Turns out, it's thanks to a super athlete gene called EPAS1. And where did they get it? Not from their Homo sapien ancestors. It was a genetic gift, a hand-me-down from the Denisovans. And the incredible gifts just keep on coming. See, as our ancestors spread out into new parts of the world, they ran into all sorts of new diseases they weren't prepared for. But the Denisovans? They'd been living in Asia for hundreds of thousands of years. They had built up this incredibly powerful immune system, like a biological shield, and through interbreeding, they passed that shield on to us. So let's paint a picture here. We've got a jaw twice as thick as ours with these massive teeth, a larger brain with DNA that hints at superior memory and pattern recognition. Some scientists even think their cells aged more slowly, maybe giving them longer lifespans. We're not just talking about another caveman here. This sounds more like a more robust, maybe even an upgraded version of a human. But their superiority wasn't just in their DNA. The few things we have found that they actually made, they are completely off the charts for their time period. I mean, they just don't make any sense.
Okay, look at this timeline because this is where it gets really crazy. About 70,000 years ago, a Denisovan made this beautiful bracelet. The hole drilled through it shows signs of a high-speed rotary tool, a technology we modern humans didn't figure out until the Industrial Revolution in the 1760s. They also made the world's oldest known sewing needle 50,000 years ago.
One researcher put it perfectly, and I love this quote. He said, "Finding that bracelet was like finding a brand new iPhone in an Egyptian pyramid." That's the level of technological shock we're talking about here. It's a complete anomaly.
And you can see here, they weren't just master engineers. A sewing needle? That means they were making tailored clothing, not just draping animal skins over themselves. They made polished beads, carved symbolic art. All of this points to a really complex culture with aesthetics, abstract thought, and almost certainly a sophisticated language to go with it.
And this, of course, leads us into some really wild, more speculative territory. Right in the heart of Denisovan territory in Siberia, you find these massive stone structures. Some people claim these are man-made megaliths with perfectly cut blocks weighing thousands of tons. Now, mainstream geology says they're just natural rock formations, but when you consider who was living there, you gotta wonder, right?
Which all leads to the biggest, most haunting question of all. If the Denisovans were so biologically robust, so technologically advanced, so culturally sophisticated, why are they gone? Why did we, Homo sapiens, survive while they just vanished?
Well, there are basically two competing stories here. The first one is pretty dark, a prehistoric genocide. The theory goes that as our ancestors, who were far more numerous and aggressive, spread across Asia, they simply outcompeted and wiped out their more advanced cousins. The second theory isn't about us. It's about the planet itself. It suggests the Denisovans were wiped out by a global cataclysm.
And that cataclysm has a name, the Younger Dryas. About 12,800 years ago, the Earth's climate went completely haywire. There's a lot of evidence pointing to a possible comet impact that triggered massive floods, wildfires, and rapid climate change. And what's so fascinating is that this timeline lines up almost perfectly with all those great flood myths you hear about in ancient cultures all over the world.
You know, it's just absolutely mind-boggling to think about. This entire lost world, their biology, their technology, their culture, their mysterious end, was almost completely erased from history. All of that, this whole lost chapter of humanity, brought back to life from the information locked inside one tiny, forgotten piece of a finger bone.
And that really leaves you with one last kind of profound thought, doesn't it? If an entire branch of the human family, a species of potential superhumans, could be lost and then just stumbled upon by chance, how many other forgotten stories, how many other lost worlds are still out there, buried right under our own feet, just waiting to be found?